The Gospel of Luke, chapter 17. Have you ever found yourself standing at the crossroads of doubt and hope? Have you ever felt like life's challenges are too overwhelming, your faith too small, or your heart too burdened to forgive? If you've ever been there, I want you to know you're not alone. And today we're going to unpack one of the most powerful chapters in the New Testament, the Gospel of Luke, chapter 17. You see, this chapter speaks to the heart of what it means to walk in faith, to live with gratitude, and to forgive endlessly while serving others with humility. These lessons are not just spiritual ideals. They are the keys to living a life of freedom, purpose, and joy. So, let's dive into these timeless teachings, and by the end, I hope we'll all feel a little lighter, a little more encouraged, and a lot more ready to face whatever lies ahead. The power of faith. The first key lesson from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 17, is about faith. The disciples asked Jesus a simple but profound request: increase our faith. Now, isn't that something we all desire? We all want more faith, more confidence that God will come through in the tough moments. But instead of giving them a grand formula or a complicated process or another religious ritual to follow, Jesus responds with an image so simple yet so powerful. He says, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mulberry tree, be uprooted and planted in the sea, and it will obey you. Why a mustard seed? Well, it's one of the smallest seeds in nature. Yet, when it grows, it becomes a large tree. Jesus is teaching us that faith doesn't have to be big to be effective. It just has to be real. Even the tiniest, most fragile faith can accomplish the impossible when placed in God's hands. So, think about that for a moment. How often do we feel that our faith is too small to make a difference? You know, we all have times where we doubt ourselves, we doubt God's timing, we doubt that anything will change. But Jesus is saying that it's not the size of your faith that matters, it's the God in whom you place it. That small seed, when nurtured, can move mountains. Or as Jesus said, uproot a tree and plant it in the sea. That's the power of faith. So ask yourself, where in life do you need to plant your mustard seed of faith? It could be a broken relationship, a financial struggle, or maybe a health issue. But we can trust that God will take your small faith and turn it into something miraculous. The call to radical forgiveness. So next, Jesus talks about something that hits close to home for all of us: forgiveness. He says, if your brother or sister sins against you, rebuke them, and if they repent, forgive them, even if they sin against you 7 times in a day, and 7 times come back to you saying, I repent, you must forgive them. Now, forgiveness is one of the most difficult things we are called to do. It's natural to feel hurt, angry, or even vengeful when someone wrongs us. But Jesus sets a high standard. He doesn't just tell us to forgive once or twice. He tells us to forgive repeatedly, even 7 times in one day if needed. Now, this isn't just about letting someone off the hook, however. Forgiveness is about freeing yourself from the poison of bitterness. When we hold on to grudges, it's like drinking a glass of poison and expecting the other person to suffer. But forgiveness releases that burden. It restores peace to your heart. It doesn't mean you ignore wrongs or fail to set boundaries, but it does mean that you don't let unforgiveness control your life. I want you to think of someone in your life who has hurt you, maybe deeply. It's hard to forgive, right? But Jesus tells us that forgiveness isn't a feeling, it's a choice. A choice to let go of bitterness and trust that God will handle justice. And the amazing thing, when you forgive, you open the door for healing in ways you can't imagine. So think about this. Who do you need to forgive today? And it might not happen instantly, but the decision to start the process can change everything. Remember, forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about your freedom and peace. Now, the transformative power of gratitude. One of the most beautiful stories in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 17, is when Jesus heals 10 men suffering from leprosy. Imagine the scene. These men are outcasts, isolated from their families, from society, and from worship. When they see Jesus, they cry out, "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." And Jesus, in his compassion, heals them all. But here's where the story takes a surprising turn. Out of the 10, only one returns to thank Jesus. And this man was a Samaritan, someone doubly marginalized. So Jesus asks, "Were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? And it's a question we need to ask ourselves. How often do we forget to return and thank God for his blessings? Gratitude is more than saying thank you. It's a posture of the heart that recognizes the goodness of God in every season, good or bad. And the Samaritan who returned was not only healed, but Jesus said to him, "Your faith has made you well." That suggests his gratitude brought about a deeper healing, not just physical, but spiritual. And when we live with a heart of gratitude, it transforms us as well, right? It opens our eyes to see God's grace everywhere and fills our lives with joy. But consider this. What blessings in your life have you forgotten to thank God for? I'd like to recommend that you take time today to reflect on all he has done, big and small. Gratitude has the power to change the outlook of your heart. Humility and selfless service. So, finally, Jesus gives a lesson on humility and service. He tells a short parable about a servant who works in a field all day. When the servant comes in, the master doesn't say, "Come sit down and eat with me." Instead, the servant prepares the master's meal first, and after that, the servant can eat. Jesus then says, "So you also, when you have done everything you were told to do, should say, 'We are unworthy servants. We have only done our duty.'" And this teaching calls us to humility. In a world that often encourages us to seek recognition, praise, and validation, Jesus reminds us that we all are simply doing our duty when we serve. Serving God and others is not about getting accolades or applause. True service comes from a heart that is motivated by love and obedience, not by a desire for recognition. And humility is not thinking less of ourselves. It's about thinking of ourselves less. I love that. I want to say that one more time. It's one of the greatest things that I've ever heard. I just love it. Humility is not thinking less of ourselves, but thinking of ourselves less. And I just love that so much, because when we shift our focus from ourselves and our own needs to the needs of others, that's when we become true followers of Christ. Now, think about it. Where can you serve with humility? Maybe it's at work, in your family, or in your community. But I want you to remember that God sees the heart behind your actions, and that's what matters the most. So, as we conclude, I want I want you to take a moment to reflect on these 4 lessons from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 17. Jesus calls us to live by faith, forgive freely, give thanks consistently, and serve humbly. Now, these are not just ancient principles. They are life-transforming truths that have the power to reshape your heart, your relationships, and your perspective. Imagine what your life would look like if you took each of these lessons seriously. Imagine the peace that would come from letting go of unforgiveness. Imagine the joy that would fill your heart when you live with gratitude. Imagine the strength that would rise within you as you nurture even the smallest seed of faith. And imagine the impact you could have on the world when you serve others with humility, expecting nothing in return. So, as you go forward from today, let these questions guide you. Where can I plant my mustard seed of faith? Who do I need to forgive? What am I thankful for? And how can I serve others with humility? The answers to these questions hold the key to a life of joy, peace, and purpose. So keep these lessons in your heart. Watch how God will transform your life from the inside out, because it will happen. And it'll be so amazing, and it'll change everything for you. Thank you, and may God bless you abundantly as you walk in faith, gratitude, forgiveness, and humility. I appreciate you joining me today. Tomorrow, I'll be back with the Gospel of Luke, chapter 18. I can't wait to see you. Have a great day. Take care.